Hello, everyone. Today I was looking through videos from Ukraine and I bumped into a video presentation by a woman named Irina Farion. She is a Ukrainian linguist and politician. She is also an ultra-nationalist who has expressed her animosity towards not only Russia, but the Russian Orthodox Church. And she believes that the Russian Orthodox Church should be removed from Ukraine. In this video presentation, which was published on YouTube about 7 days ago, Irina Farion basically presents a praise for the OUN while recounting its history and reciting quotes from major OUN leaders and ideologues. This video, I believe, really gives us an idea as to the political ideology of Ukrainian nationalism that has been embedded within the collective consciousness of Ukrainian society. So I just want to add something here. I remember when the Russian invasion of Ukraine took place, I began to interview people in Ukraine, and there was one woman that I interviewed who lives in Donbass, and she told me that in Ukraine, Ukrainian ultra-nationalism is presented in the television. She said you can turn on the TV here and you will see the indoctrination. And I did not deny what she was saying, but I just had not seen it myself. Well, today, for the first time, I'm seeing this sort of indoctrination on Ukrainian television. So you have an idea of what type of political indoctrination is shown in Ukraine. So here it is. Let's start. So here she is. Let me rewind it here. So here she's talking about celebrating the 80th anniversary of the Ukrainian Insurgent Army, which is the UPA or UIA. And the UPA was collaborating with the Nazis, and well, it collaborated with the Nazis, and it also took part in the slaughter of Polish people. It also integrated itself with the OUN, the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists, which was led by Stepan Bandera and Andrei Melnik and Roman Shukovich, all of whom were murderers and were war criminals committing atrocities, or really, I should say, organizing atrocities. And here she is talking about how on this particular day, during this recording, they are celebrating the anniversary of this organization, the UPA. So she says here, in my opinion, it was the UIA that gave rise to the present-day armed forces of Ukraine. So here she gives an ideological bridge between the UPA and the current-day armed forces of Ukraine, which really goes to show you that there is most definitely a continuation of the ideology of Ukrainian nationalism in the current day Ukrainian military. Hence why it is not really surprising that ultra-nationalist paramilitaries like Azov were embedded into the armed forces of Ukraine.
Армія – це матір Збройних сил України сьогодні. Тому аналізуватимемо сьогодні це, що...
So she talks about how they're going to analyze the figures of the UPA, the OUN, and I'm not going to play the whole video because it's 30 minutes, but we'll just show some parts of it. So here she talks about this guy who was described as the monk of the OUN, so basically like a spiritual ideologue of the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists. Stepan Lenkovsky is his name, and she describes him as being a remarkable personality.
Степана Ленкавського. Світлину цього монаха ОУН, як його називали.
So she describes him as the monk of the OUN. So basically a spiritual ideologue of this organization that existed during the Second World War and that slaughtered the Poles of what is today Western Ukraine. At that time, it was a part of Poland, Lvov, East Galicia, Volhynia, etc. And you can read about the massacres. They were horrific, absolutely horrific. 100,000 Poles murdered by this organization that this evil old hag is praising. And the fact that this is on Ukrainian television, the fact that Irina Farion is a very popular figure in Ukrainian political discourse tells us about Ukrainian nationalism, that it is nefarious, vicious, violent, and dangerous. It's not something to be admired.
ОУНівському середовищі ви зараз побачите перед собою. Більше про цього чоловіка, звісно, що ви можете подивитися у студії «Величі особистості». А сьогодні ми наголосимо лише на поодиноких фундаментальних працях, які подарував українцям цей один із найпотужніших інтелектуалів українського націоналістичного руху і автор основного надиху для тодішнього і, без сумніву, теперішнього свідомого українського покоління. І цей твір його називає...
So she describes his work called the Decalogue. Tadeusz Petrovsky talks about this in his book, Poland's Holocaust. Here's the thing. The fact that they are still praising this ideology and the figures behind it today in Ukraine tells us that the ideology is still there. It's still a part of Ukrainian nationalism. It is Ukrainian nationalism. Ukrainian nationalism is the nationalism of the OUN and the UPA. It has not ended. They haven't said, okay, guys, let's stop this stuff. We can still be patriotic, but let's stop with the OUN ideology. No, it's still there. And people will tell me, Ted, you're so stuck in history. Why do you keep bringing up Ukrainian history? Why do Ukrainians keep bringing up Ukrainian history? Why do Ukrainians continue to revere and worship mass murderers? And praise them as historical figures. Why? And as long as they are praising mass murderers as their historical heroes, then I'm going to continue talking about this. And I've been talking about this for years. Ted, you're so stuck in history. The Ukrainians that you revere so much, that you sympathize with so much, they are stuck in history. Let's play some more.
Називається «Декалог». Перш ніж ми перейдемо до «Декалогу», то нагадаємо, що Степан Ленкавський...
So she gives, a little bit of the history of this guy, Stepan Lenkovsky, an ideologue for the OUN. Passed away in 1977 in Munich. Who cares? A lot of these Nazis went to Germany after the Second World War. They went to Germany, they went to Austria, they went to Chicago, and they also went to Canada. A huge bulk of them went to Canada. A lot of them went to Chicago. Interestingly enough, I knew a Croatian priest from Chicago years ago who literally praised the Ustasha. So a lot of these Nazis, they went to Chicago, which isn't that surprising because Chicago is a big cesspool for the worst of the ideologues, be it Pan-Africanism, Nation of Islam activists, biker gangs, neo-Nazis. A lot of these guys went to Chicago. But look at this woman's eyes. This woman she looks possessed. She looks possessed. She is possessed by the demon of Ukraine. And you're going to see in this video how Ukraine is a religion for these nationalists. It's not just a country. It's literally a religion. There's a whole cult that revolves around this stuff. Guys, oh my God, people who are sitting there screaming Slava Ukraina in Twitter, for one thing, y'all are just, y'all are cringe. Okay, you guys are just cringe as hell. You guys are cringe as hell. And the thing also is that you guys are, when you sympathize with Ukrainian nationalists and nationalism, you guys are sympathizing with a cult. This is a cult. It's like the Temple of Doom. When Indiana Jones says, Kali is our mother. These freaks will scream, Ukraine is our mama. Bandera is our father. They will literally say, Bandera is our daddy.
Батько наш Бандера, Україна мати, ми за Україну будем воювати. Батько наш Бандера, Україна мати, ми за Україну будем воювати.
I am not joking. The Ukrainian armed forces says this. They say Bandera is our daddy.
Батько наш Бандера, Україна мати, ми за Україну будем воювати. Батько наш Бандера, Україна мати, ми за Україну. Батько наш.
So I don't know if you guys want to get yourselves involved in or praise a group of people that praise a murderer as their daddy. That's just freaky. And people on Twitter saying Slava Ukraina, you guys are cringe as hell. Seriously cringe.
Скажемо так, перший кодифікував разом іще з одним своїм.
So these OUN ideologues, they compiled a collection called Perspectives for a Ukrainian Revolution,
Колегу у
etc.
студії «Ген Українці».
The collection was discussed in The Gene of Ukrainians, dedicated to the ideological legacy of Stepan Bandera.
Присвячений, власне, ідеологічній спадщині Степана Бандери.
So she gets into this work
Багатотомового видання
by
Лонкавського.
Stepan Lekamsky called Ideology and Philosophy. So she'll quote this.
Що називається «Ідеологія і філософія». І ось ви на екрані
On the
можете
screen, you can see the Decalogue now.
зараз цей декалог побачити. Декалог розпочинається із
It opens with seemingly romantic and sublime words.
дуже романтичних і піднесених слів, але вони лише на перший погляд видаються романтичними, тобто дух.
I am the spirit of the eternal element who shielded you from the Tatar flood and placed you between two worlds to create a new life. Guys, it's a religion. This is religious talk. So this Lenkovsky guy, who was the monk of the OUN, he is speaking on behalf of a divine entity. I am the spirit of the eternal element. This sounds like something out of Crowley. Sounds like some kind of Masonic stuff. Who shielded you from the Tatar flood, Tatar being the Russians, and placed you between two worlds to create a new life. What these two worlds are, I don't know. It sounds like some kind of Elden Ring crap, or it sounds like some occultic stuff. And that's the thing. One thing you'll notice if you get deep into Ukrainian nationalism is that it's a religion. And if you study the history of the UPA, you will see that there was a pagan division in the UPA during the Second World War that dedicated itself to the worship of the Slavic god, pre-Christian Slavic god Perun. So paganism and Ukrainian nationalism goes way back, goes decades back. And today, when you look at the Ukrainian nationalist fighters, you will see kalovrat tattoos on their bodies, kalovrat being the Slavic pagan swastika. You will also see rune symbols. You will also see, I remember seeing one Ukrainian nationalist literally have this guy had a Bab Homet tattoo on his body. So these guys get really dark, really dark.
Стихії, що зберіг тебе від татарської потопи, означає, що поняття
that the idea of a nation is ancestral, okay?
Нації предковічне, що нація це не є політичне
A nation isn't a political formation, neither it is the result of socioeconomic development of some kind.
утворення, що нація це не наслідок якогось суспільно-економічного розвитку. Нація це те,
Our nation is something that has naturally existed since the appearance of the psychotype cold Ukrainians. Yes, these people are psychos.
Що природно існує від часу появи психотипа, що називається українці. І, власне, за однією
According to one version, the author of these words about the spirit of eternal element is Ivan Gabrushvich.
версією, автором тих слів про дух одвічної стихії, тобто
The idea implies that the nation itself is eternal. So I don't know what country or what nation is eternal. The American nation is not eternal. The Palestinian nation is not eternal. The Iraqi nation is not eternal. The English nation is not eternal. There were many nations that existed in ancient history that don't exist anymore. They existed in ancient times. They don't exist anymore because they were conquered by other peoples and intermarried with other people. And their descendants would eventually just identify as a new people. Great example, the Canaanites. There's no Canaanite nation anymore. I'm pretty certain that they are people today. Well, actually, we know for a fact that there are people today who have the DNA that the Canaanites had, and they live in Lebanon, North Africa, but they don't identify as Canaanite. They identify as Lebanese or Tunisian. So there was the Canaanite nation, but apparently it wasn't eternal. So I don't know, this idea of the nation being eternal can't really be labeled as anything else but religious. This idea is religious. This is a cult. This is a cult of a nation. That's what this is. It's the worship of the nation. It's a religion, everybody. It's a religion.
я би хотіла, щоб ми з вами звернули
So she gets into point 8 of the 10 commandments of the Ukrainian nationalists. Tadeusz Petrovsky talks about the 10 commandments of the OUN. So I already knew about this before watching this video, but nonetheless, the fact that they are literally still preaching the commandments of the OUN on Ukrainian television, where millions of people could watch it, tells me that Ukraine definitely has a problem and has not severed itself from the evil ideology of its past.
увагу саме на 8-й пункт, який сьогодні в час війни нам надзвичайно потрібний. Отже, 8-й
The paragraph sounds as follows. This is what the OUN taught, okay?
пункт звучить так: ненавистю,
With hatred and deceit, you will receive the enemies of your nation. With hatred and deceit. This is a worldview that is akin to what is taught in Islam, which teaches that you can lie to your enemy in order to kill your enemy or to conquer your enemy. And in this case, we see this same sort of paradigm in Ukrainian nationalist ideology, teaching that you should not only hate your enemy, but lie to your enemy. So lying is okay. Lying for the sake of defeating your enemies is okay. So the question comes, what type of lies are Ukrainian nationalists utilizing today? That's a question that we should ask. If their ideology okays for them to lie in order to win in a war, be it a physical war and also a propaganda war, it makes you wonder about whether or not the accusations that they are lodging against the Russians are real or not. It makes you wonder how many things they have accused Russia of are lies or are true. It makes you wonder.
і безоглядною боротьбою
If your ideology says lie in order to win, then you should expect people to question the accusations that you make against your enemy. Simple as that.
Тобто, йдеться про
So she gets into the ideology of another OUN figure named Oles Babi.
Олеся Бабія. Про Олеся Бабія ми з вами робили окрему студію. Лише нагадаю, що він народився у селі Середньому на Калущині. Це також
So she gets into his history where he was born. I'll skip that. He died in Chicago. Again, Chicago, everybody. That's where a lot of these Nazis went after the war.
До покоління
Babia had made his way from the generation of the Sich riflemen to the generation of the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists. So he was indeed an ideologue of the OUN.
Організації українських націоналістів, а ми з вами йдемо від покоління УПА
And we
до
are progressing from the generation of the UIA or the UPA, the Ukrainian Insurgent Army, to the generation of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. So again, she's making the ideological connection between the UPA and the OUN and the present day Ukrainian military. So they see the Ukrainian military as continuing the legacy of the UPA and the OUN, which explains why they still praise Stepan Bandera, why they still praise Melnik, why they still praise all these ideologues and these figures. They praise mass murderers like Roman Stukovich. It all makes sense because they see themselves as a continuation of this historical legacy. So if you see yourself as the continuation of a group of mass murderers, then we most definitely have the right to question your moral integrity. So she quotes this guy. He made some kind of a hymn for nationalists.
відгуки. Отже, основне гасло «Бо плач не
Crying hasn't given the freedom to anyone yet, but whoever is a fighter will conquer the world.
Отже, перед вами був автор славня «Зродились ми великої години». 1932 рік.
Okay, Ukrainian. So there's a song called "We Were Born on a Great Hour," which is still a popular hymn amongst Ukrainian nationalists today.
Певними змінами аж за 86 років він знову прийшов до серця українців, щоби наголосити на правдивих максимах, на вертикалях нашого духу. Він став офіційним маршем українського.
The hymn eventually became the official march of the Ukrainian army on August 24th, 2018. So again, this is yet another evidence that the Ukrainian military today sees itself as the continuation of the UPA and the OUN. So it sees itself as the continuation of a murderous ultra-nationalist network that existed in the Second World War and that committed a genocide on Polish people and Jewish people. So let's not sit here and act naive and pretend that Ukraine does not have a far-right problem. It really is that simple. Yes, let's criticize Russia if where Russia deserves criticism, but at the same time, let's not sit here and act like Ukraine is this amazing nation and that we should all just gather around and indiscriminately show our support for Ukrainian nationalism, or just ignore the ideology of Ukrainian nationalism that exists within the collective psyche of the country. This is just like the Ukrainian military embedding Azov into its ranks. Azov was embedded into its ranks. Other ultra-nationalist paramilitaries were embedded into the Ukrainian military. So this is like the U.S. Army taking all of the American skinheads who are in the U.S. Army and making a unit out of them and saying, yeah, we have a skinhead unit. That would be completely and utterly insane. But Ukraine pretty much did the equivalent to that.
9 вересня 1932 року Бабія було засуджено, ось перед вами Нежанківський, було засуджено до 4 років Дрогобицької тюрми. І саме там, у справі конгресівців. Справа конгресівців, тобто засуджували наші...
So the OUN did a lot of its formulation in Vienna, in Austria. The Polish government, which was occupying what is today called, parts of Western Ukraine, put a lot of these ideologues in prison, such as Stepan Bandera. The Polish government put a lot of these people in prison because these people were dangerous. They were violent. They were involved in political assassination. They were terrorists. They committed acts of terrorism. The Polish government had every right to put these people in prison. Amazingly, at that time, the Ukrainian nationalists were claiming to be victims of the Polish government, and they were saying, look, the Polish government is persecuting us, when the reality was that the Poles were simply trying to protect their society from Ukrainian murderous terrorist lunatics. Today, Ukrainian nationalists are claiming to be victims. Look at us. We are being victimized by Russia. They were playing the same game during the 1930s, claiming that they were being persecuted and oppressed by the Polish government. They were lying in their ideology. They are taught to lie for the sake of victory. So when we hear the claims of Ukrainian nationalists today, we have to wonder how much of what they are saying are lies. How much of what they are saying is just being said simply to gain the sympathy of America and the Western world. That is a legitimate question and concern. The Polish government arrested these people because they were terrorists. The Ukrainians claimed to be victims. Only 2 years later, slaughter the Poles that they claimed they were not against, that they claimed they were that they claimed that they were friendly with. They said, "Oh, we're not terrorists. We don't want to kill people. We're good people." Blah 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 blah. But that was nonsense. They ended up victimizing the very people that arrested them because the Poles were afraid of them, and the Poles were right. So here she plays a video of Ukrainian soldiers singing this song.
Наскільки важливо нам сьогодні
Зробились ми великої години з пожеж війни і полум'я вогнів, плекав нас біль за долю України, зростив нас гнів і лють на ворогів, плекав нас біль за долю України, зростив нас гнів і лють на ворогів. Переможним ходом тверді пісні, незламні мов граніт, поплач не дав нікому ще свободи, хто борець, той здобуває світ, поплач не дав нікому ще свободи, хто борець, той здобуває світ. Україна!
Ukraine, holy mother of heroes. There's a number of things that I want to say about this. Ukraine, holy mother of heroes. Now, if someone told me, Ted, you have to say America, holy mother of heroic soldiers, I would tell you to jump off of a cliff. Okay, I'm not calling any country my mother. No country is my mother. This is like saying Mother Earth. Ukraine is now Mother Earth. It's a religion. It's a cult. Another thing that I want to say is that this is a song that was composed for a murderous organization called the OUN, a mass murderous organization called the OUN. And here they are singing the song, and they made it the official hymn of the Ukrainian armed forces. Oh my God! Oh, okay. There's something I really want to say about this. Could you imagine if today, let's say Donald Trump won the election, right, for the second time? Could you imagine if Donald Trump took a song? Let's say there was a hymn that was composed by American Nazis, and Trump took the song and said, you know what? I really like the lyrics of this song. I really like it. I really like the sound of it. You know, patriotic. I like it. I'm gonna make it a part of the U.S. Marine Corps. Could you imagine people just losing their freaking mind? People would lose their minds. I would lose my mind. I'd be pissed. Remember when European leaders, European politicians like Matteo Salvini took office, and people in the media were saying, "Look, the far right in Italy, they're winning over there, and fascism is coming back, man. Look like Mussolini be coming back from the dead. You know what I mean?" And remember when the AfD became the third biggest party in Germany? They still are. The far right in Germany is coming up in Germany now. The far right, it's getting real big. What else? Remember Viktor Orban? Remember the Freedom Party in Austria? Remember all that stuff? 2017, 2018, that sort of thing. Around that time period. Look, I remember there were people in the media saying that that these political figures had links to fascism, the far right, but Ukraine takes the hymn of a mass murderous Nazi collaborating organization called the OUN, the Organization of Ukrainian Nationalists, and makes it the official hymn of its military. And you're telling me that Ukraine doesn't have a Nazi problem? That is nonsense. This is like if Germany, could you imagine if the German government took a hymn from the Nazis and made it a part of the Bundeswehr and said, "Oh yeah, it's now an official hymn of the Bundeswehr, of the German armed forces." Could you imagine that? That would be insane. But it's happened in Ukraine, and they want us all to reject the idea that Ukraine has a Nazi problem. They want us all to reject the idea that Ukraine has a far right problem. They want us all to get on our hands and knees and revere Ukraine as some righteous nation. Just because you're conquered, just because you are invaded, doesn't make you righteous. Just because you are invaded does not mean that you automatically deserve sympathy. The Ukrainian, the Aztec Empire was invaded by the Spanish Empire. Does that mean that we should sympathize with the Aztecs? The Aztec Empire was full of human sacrifice and cannibalism and all sorts of weird rituals. When I read history, I'm rooting for the Spaniards. I'm not rooting for the Aztecs. Just because you are invaded does not automatically mean that you deserve sympathy and support. We have to look at the country that's being invaded and say, okay, what's their ideology? What are they about? And we have seen how atrocious the Ukrainians can be, the Ukrainian nationalists can be. I've seen a video of, and I know people say, look, Ted, there's a video here of a Russian soldier castrating a Ukrainian man. Atrocious, evil, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. But let's not sit here and pretend that there are literally numerous videos of Ukrainians doing atrocious things that the mainstream media doesn't talk about. We have a video of Ukrainian nationalists literally crucifying a man alive, and this video was filmed years before the Russian special operation. We have a video of Ukrainian soldiers, members of the Azov battalion, which is part of the military, burying a Russian man alive, and this video was filmed in 2017, years before the Russians invaded Ukraine. We have a video of Ukrainian soldiers executing Russian POWs. We have a picture of a Ukrainian soldier literally boiling the head of a severed Russian soldier. We have some very atrocious things. So, and when you read about what the OUN did, raping people, ripping people's eyeballs out, gutting people, skinning people alive, horrific things that these people committed, and yet those murderers are considered heroes by Ukraine. Let's not sit here and pretend that Ukraine doesn't have this problem. It does. It's a cult, everybody. This is like Iran. This is like the Ayatollah Khomeini type cult. This is a cult. Look at this guy. He looks like a lunatic. Asking Ukraine to come down into your heart. This is like asking Jesus into your heart. This is a religion. This is a religion for a country. For your glory, for your sacred ideas. Just replace Ukraine with God. You don't know the difference. It's a cult. Let my soul be reborn in you. This is like saying I'm born again in Christ Jesus. It's a religion. Oh my God, it's a nationalist cult. Oh, it's in the society. This is what we're dealing with. Let it be lit up with your glory. It's a religion. This is like Kali in the Temple of Doom. Okay. Let's fast forward this.
Сьогодні трошки більше знаменна постать, про яку
So she
ми
gets into Osip Mashak. This guy.
не готували Гену, але скажемо сьогодні трошки більше. Осип на хімічному відділі став
So he composed a prayer called the Prayer of a Ukrainian Nationalist.
автором грандіозного тексту, без якого не обходився того часу жодний оунівець. Він став автором тексту молитви. Народився у Старосамбірському районі, село Смільниця. Відійшов у вічність у грудні
76. Died in New York. A lot of these Nazis came to America. They went to Canada, they went to Chicago, they went to New York, they went to Pennsylvania. The guy who orchestrated the Volhynia massacre, his grave is in Pennsylvania here in America. It's so crazy. Look, Nikola Lebed is his name. His body's here in America, not in Ukraine, in America. I'm not surprised. America's a country full of psychos anyway. Why not just bury the psychos in Ukraine here?
6-го року в Нью-Йорку, у Сполучених Штатах. Він сам згадував про те, як він цей текст писав. Я зовсім тоді
So he says, I didn't intend to create a prayer, but I wrote a prayer. So as if that makes any sense. No wonder the Poles put these maniacs in prison. But they were released, and look what happened. They killed 100,000 people.
Вже сьогодні Харківський університет імені Каразіна, де навчався Мирослав Мисла, оголосив збір коштів на
Here are Ukrainian soldiers reciting this prayer. Here it is.
відновлення могили.
Ukraine, Holy Mother of Heroes. This is like saying Mother Mary, Holy Mother of God. I mean, it's religion. Come down to my heart. It's a religion. Asking Jesus into your heart? No, ask Ukraine into your heart, everybody. If you really support Ukraine, you will not ask Jesus into your heart. You will ask Ukraine into your heart. My soul be revived into you. This is like saying being born again in Christ Jesus. I mean, it's religion. I mean, I know in America we have I pledge of allegiance to the flag, which is weird, but I've never seen it go this far. Like in America, in the Marine Corps, they say something like, we are dedicated to protecting America by all threats, both domestic and foreign. Well, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But I've never seen them say stuff like this. My faith in what? Faith in Ukraine. It's a religion. As the heroes who did before me. Which heroes? OUN, UPA, mass murderers, Nazi collaborators. For your glory. I mean, this is like, it's like a Christian prayer. For your glory, Lord, but not the Lord, no, Ukraine. For your holy ideas. Again, it's a religion. The Vatican, before this, the outbreak of the Second World War, the Vatican put out, I think it was during the Second World War, it could have been at the beginning of the war. The Vatican put out a statement against fascism, and it said, whoever reveres a nation or a race is Antichrist. Well, you guys, literally, the Ukrainian nationalist ideology reveres race and nation. So Ukraine is Antichrist. It is. And if you support Ukrainian nationalism, you're with the Antichrist. You are down with the Antichrist. Okay. So that's the end of it. There you have it, everybody. Crazy nationalist religion, the cult of Ukraine. It's all there. Insane, vicious nationalism, the reverence of a mass murdering network known as the OUN and the UPA. It's all there. Ukraine has a far-right problem. It's quite evident just looking at their television. Anyway, you guys just heard some theology. God bless.